welcome to Module 4, Assessing the Whole Person. This module addresses the holistic assessment of a patient. You will learn to move from the biomedical model to the biopsychosocial model. When performing an assessment, you gather the physiological information of all systems of your patient, what many of you are doing in your workplace now. Assessing this way is the biomedical model. In the biopsychosocial model, while you are gathering that same data, you will open yourself to listen for influences that may contribute to the overall health of your patient. You will be introduced to a concept map that will guide you to consider the mind, body, and spirit influences that may be contributing to the imbalance you assess in your patient. This is holistic assessment. So in this module, you will perform a video, a head-to-toe holistic assessment, using what you have learned in your readings, using the techniques of the biopsychosocial model and the concept map. You will choose from one of 4 case studies provided to you in this module as your patient. You will find a willing volunteer to become that patient in the case study. You will prepare your patient using the information you discover in the research of the case. By paying particular attention to mind, body, and spirit, you will discover the symptoms your patient is expressing can be part or all of the reason why the imbalance is present. So I like to start this module with listening to Gene Watson, Caring Moments. That'll be in the next slide.
Often we hear about burnout, but increasingly we learn that the burnout is not because we care too much. It's because we wall ourselves off and close off our heart and close off our very source of love. And the human connectedness that gives us the life-generating force for this work. Why are we in this field? When it often seems that we are just there to fix the body, to give physical diagnosis and treatment. Healing is much more than that. Much more of what it's about comes down to us through the ages, from our ancestors and the wisdom traditions that call us into this work. And that's about honoring our very presence, our connectedness with another person in a given moment. And it is that caring moment that actually can be a critical turning point in my life, in your life, and in another person's life, as we touch another person's humanity. What if we revisited the very foundation of our work and began to honor the deep, rich beauty of our humanity? That must again flourish. Because this is what healing is about. And what if we realize that this is sacred work? And it's sacred because we're working with a life force of another person as well as ourselves on this shared journey. What if we began to pause and to realize that maybe this one moment with this one person is the very reason we're here on Earth at this time. Any health practitioner today is struggling to return to the very human depths of our work. And we know that when we are connecting with another person in this deep way, even if it's for a brief moment in time, that we have much more purpose in our life and in our work. And we know that when that's missing, there's an empty void, and we're dispirited. And we also know the same thing happens with patients. When we hold them in their wholeness, we're holding their healing for them. And we are helping to sustain them when they are most vulnerable. And as we sustain another person, we're also sustaining ourselves. This work is a spiritual practice. When we touch another person physically, we're touching more than just their body. We're touching their mind. We're touching their heart. We're touching their very soul. And when we look into the face of another person, we look into the infinity and the mystery of the human soul. And when we look into the mystery and the infinity of the human soul, it mirrors the infinity and the mystery back into our soul. And that's what connects us with this infinite field of universal love that we draw upon in our caring and healing practices. So I offer this as a blessing for you in your work, in the world, and in your heart, as you open to the love that you have to give and to the purpose of your calling into this noble and ancient profession.
So the purpose of this module is to look at a new way of approaching disease. It's the switch in your mind from the biomedical model that we all learned in nursing school to Engel's biopsychosocial model of assessment. To help you with understanding this in a broader way, be sure to read the Holistic Hearing Process from the Holistic Nursing Handbook for Practice. It will really help you to set up your assessment. Also in the recommended readings, I suggest you read the Epstein 2014 article that beautifully explains Engel's vision of patient care. Epstein stated in 2014, George Engel's biopsychosocial vision was simultaneously scientific and humanistic. These challenges are magnified by the mandate for greater patient autonomy and participation in care, increased access to information, and overlaps and omissions as multiple professionals try to address the whole person. Importantly, trainees and clinicians get stuck implementing the biopsychosocial model partly because they have not developed the capacity for resilience, self-awareness, and self-monitoring. These capacities must accompany efforts to help clinicians engage more deeply with their patients. Otherwise, they risk emotional distress, empathic failure, premature closure, and withdrawal from effective connections with patients. So by using this model, the patient is no longer the chief complaint they entered your clinic with or the hospital with, but a complex being where disease enters your patient through an unbalanced mind, body, spirit. Holistic assessment involves the healthcare provider to share an energetic space in a professional interaction. You, the nurse, suddenly sees the patient beyond their diagnosis, but instead listens for cues to why they present with an illness. We all are, after all, complex living systems. So your first step will choose a case study. You'll have 4 to choose from: a Korean adolescent with inattentive attention disorder, a 25-year-old gay Hispanic man with persisting fever, a 42-year-old Caucasian man with a history of myocardial infarction, and a 72-year-old African American woman with diabetes, hypertension, peripheral vascular disease, and a wound that will not heal. I encourage you to choose a study that may make you feel uneasy or unfamiliar. If you do this, you will get the most out of this assignment through the research you do to set up for your video assessment. If you do this, you will experience your triggers, your gut reactions that sometimes interfere with the openness needed to hear and heal your patient. Own these triggers, feel them deeply. If you do, then you will become a healing nurse. So now it's time to find a volunteer to act out your chosen case study. Look to your colleagues or friends or family. Give them the case study to review. You'll guide them through the video assessment and they can answer what they think this patient might say, or you can provide them a script. And most of all, practice, practice, practice. It may seem strange that we're asking you to find an actor for a specific part. We do this for a purpose. We are all humans and mostly like to stay within a comfortable lane. So we may choose the patient we see most often. It is easier to complete the assignment. But this course is different. We are asking you to get uncomfortable. I would recommend you choose a healthcare colleague, but in the end, this is your choice. Remember to get their signed consent that is provided to you in the course. This consent must be signed and submitted with your final project to the Dropbox. If it is not, then your project cannot be graded. You can use whatever media recording you want. D2L provides you with YouTube instructions, but you can simply create a recording with your phone or computer and submit that format, for example, an MP4. Be sure to check your submission link to be sure it opens and works in the Dropbox. If you cannot open and use it, then your faculty member will not be able to either. You can script your volunteer or allow them to answer your questions how they think this particular patient would answer. This is a growth opportunity for them as well, to present themselves in an unfamiliar skin. And then practice at least 3 times before starting your final video recording. So for this assignment, we provide you with a template to create your assessment guidelines. So I would suggest that you have a copy of that holistic assessment template in front of you as we are going to review it section by section. Section 1, at the top you will simply add in the information asked for: your name, the case study you chose, copy and paste your video link, most important. Section 2, this is the guide you will fill out once you have researched the patient type in the case study. This entire section is theoretical since this is not an actual patient, so research well. Not only the disease, but also the demographic details. Notice that each system is assessed using the Engel model, remembering your patient is not just a body expressing symptoms, but also as contributing psychosocial spiritual components. In the concept map, we'll review on the next slide. Lastly, write a 2-paragraph summary of your findings and be sure to include an APA formatted reference list. I want you to take special attention to the areas in purple type. You know, we all know that you can do a general head-to-toe assessment pretty darn well, but many of us don't know really how to do a psychological, social, and spiritual assessment. This is the biggest part of this assessment. As I ask you to take good attention to your videoed head-to-toe assessment, I want you really to take the time to learn and have a plan in your mind that you can portray that is practical to your patient. Use a lot of open-ended questions. And then the concept map that we'll go through next, you're going to think of how the psychological influence, the mind influence, the spirit influence, and the body influence affects your patient. So this is a concept map example for depression. And as you see, this is what this looks like exactly in your template, but you'll be adding in, obviously, the information within each of the squares and within the circle. The concept map is not only a place to fill out your findings, but you will be sharing with your patient on the video your holistic plan. Again, you will not only write these findings on your template, you will be educating your patient on the video of this plan. And you can get clues from using the concept map that you put together. For example, Ms. Smith, you came in today telling us that you were depressed. Your doctor has examined you and he and I have consulted on a plan beyond medication treatment. I can emphasize with you how difficult this time must be for you. Fatigue, foggy thinking, withdrawal can feel insurmountable. We are recommending you start by making an appointment with a therapist of your choice. Here is a list of names that your insurance allows for you to consider. Certainly, if you are already seeing a therapist you trust, please make an appointment today to see them again. If you are able, take some time off from work and rest. Spend some time in nature, take a daily walk to start with. If you cannot take time off work, start by simply sitting quietly each day for 5 minutes. Play some music you like, close the door, ask your family not to disturb you. Create a healing space even though you may think 5 minutes is no time, or that you simply cannot fit even 5 minutes in for yourself. You must take time to care for you. You are most important during this time of healing. Do this on your job also. This may be the most important time of your day to detach for short periods of time. Try hard to disengage from gossip and negative talking with your coworkers. Practice what you may tell them when this happens. For example, hey Carrie, I decided to take a break from the workplace politics this month. And as you get stronger, hey Carrie, I'm not going to be part of the office gossip anymore. I'm working on seeing the positive in others. It really is the only thing I have personal control over. You told me that you're not a spiritual person, but are looking for some kind of group or community to fill your needs. Community is very important. It can be soul nourishing, but it cannot give you all the answers. Those must come from within yourself. Take these next 4 weeks before we see you again to see your therapist weekly, to rest, walk, sit quietly, and reflect. The medications we are starting you on could take 4 to 6 weeks to show effect, so do not get discouraged. Fit in small things to nourish you, even if that small thing is 5 minutes alone. Here is our phone number that will connect you to one of our team 24 hours a day. Never hesitate to call. We will see you in 4 weeks. Be kind to yourself in the meantime. So you also have a holistic assessment exemplar that I'd really like you to use. It will give you, all the steps of the interview for a holistic assessment. But probably the most important thing is for you to sit down and tell them how much time you have for this interview and make a connection with your patient. Again, the most important thing in this part of the interview of your patient is to be sitting down, not standing over them. So we have given you all the tools to be successful in this mock holistic assessment. On the next slide, you're going to see a video head-to-toe assessment exemplar from a former student in our program in his Healing Environments course. It's meant not as a perfect example, but as a guide to just give you an idea of what you might be looking for. So take a look at it in the next slide.
Mr. K? Hi, I'm Joey Estrada. I'm going to be your nurse today at this follow-up visit. Thanks for coming in. Can you tell me your birthday?
It's May 18, 1974,
What about the current year?
2016.
Can you tell me about the events that led up to your hospitalization?
I hope this presentation has helped you plan your assessment. This assignment will be unlike any you will do in this program. Because of that, you must prepare and practice before the actual day you complete your video. Please take this advice seriously, leaving ample time to ask questions of faculty if you need any direction. Remember during this time to take a little time for yourself to participate in the Way of the Healer section in D2L to ready you for this assignment. Again, contact us with any questions. Namaste.